78% of suicide rates worldwide are men. What can we do to help them? Don't expect men to be manly. We have worries. We have fears just like anyone else. Sometimes we don't want sex. We just want someone to hold us and tell us everything is going to be okay. The modern world shouldn't expect someone to be anything other than a contributing member of society. Be it any way. Men like power and feeling looked up to, but like women and children, we need someone to love us and someone we can fall back onto. When a man or even a woman is shutting people out and isolating themselves, they need your love the most. I know this will get buried, but I hope someone can take something from this. An uncle-in-law shot himself to death this week. The guy was screaming for help and threatening to do it for days. He was 48. What are the options? If I was dealing with heavy depression and just wanted to talk to someone, where do I go? I've sought independent counselors and they usually turn out to be nutcases themselves. Seems like this just adds to the overall feeling of hopelessness. In the US, people apparently call suicide hotlines like 211 pretty frequently just to talk. They'll always listen if you don't have anyone else, even if you're not having any sort of suicidal ideation. Treat their mental health seriously. When they are struggling with a problem, the only advice that is given to them to man up, which, in my opinion, they have, and they just need actual help. Absolutely. Getting help should be seen as a way to man up, because it's the strong thing to do. Treat us like humans. I was sexually assaulted as a child and frequently tried to harm myself, but whenever I talked to someone about it they scoffed and said I was telling fibs. Edit. Thank you for all the kind words. Please, if you're thinking of hurting yourself, please seek help. Don't go it alone. That's why I struggle to open up, because I always think someone will tell me I'm doing it for attention. Don't shame us for asking for help or appearing weak. Was here for this. Stop calling men pusses for having feelings. Humans feel feelings and it's normal, and expressing them doesn't make them less of a person, no matter their chromosomes. It seems like men are only allowed to have the shallowest of feelings and then expected to move on right away. Often anger, and if it's depression or sadness you are allowed one tear or to look away then move on. Stop telling them to man up or grow a pair, because men suffer too. When I got a knee injury which the 911 crew said I normally should be passed out from the pain. The only thing I was worried about was whether people would notice I had a tear coming out of my eye. Hugs, compliments and cuddles. Men does not get enough of these things. Yeah, this hits home. Pretty much to the point that when I actually do get these things, I become internally uncomfortable. Almost don't feel worthy of them unless I've literally saved a life or done something amazing. Not abandon your best friend of 10 years after he begged you for help. Duck you, Sam. Duck you, Sam. On this guy's behalf. Compliment them, even if it's something small. Wow, that's a nice shirt. It looks good on you. Your hair looks nice today. A girl complimented my nose 4 years ago. Weird, I know, but I still remember that compliment. 2 girls have complimented my teeth in the past 6 years. I remember their names. Compliments matter. Provide more opportunities to form communities and activities that cater to different men's needs. A lot of us don't have friends or intimate platonic relationships, and we are in desperate need of that. I'm a 34-year married man who is also a father, and I have no friends that I see or socialize with on the regular. I think this is a part of aging and of having a family that needs me. The same can also be said for my wife. She is the only person in her circle of friends who is a working mother and is married, so she pretty much never sees any of her friends. Sometimes things like family duties can just bury all your free time outside of work. I'd bet a lot of money though that, while your wife may not see her friends often, that she talks to them very regularly. I mean, it's telling that you start off saying you have no friends that you see or socialize with, but then describe her as having a circle of friends. The primary issue is in how men bond versus how women bond. Women can maintain very close relationships by simply talking over the phone. I'm obviously generalizing here. Not every woman likes to spend 2 hours on the phone. Some prefer texting. Blah blah. The point is that they bond through talking. Men on the other hand bond through activities. It's pretty ducking hard to do an activity over the phone. Online gaming and voice chat has actually helped a lot with this problem, but most of the men suffering through this are going to have a heck of a time convincing their wife to let them game for 2 hours a night with their buddies. I mean, you ever walk into a bar with two old dudes? They're barely even looking at each other. They're usually sitting on the same side watching whatever game is on the TV. So yes, the same can be said for your wife, but it's not nearly the problem it is for her as it is for you, and we need to stop pretending that there are no differences between men and women and we are all the same. Loneliness will fucking kill you, and while it makes you feel like an asshole for even thinking that you might be lonely while you live in a house with a loving wife and your children, it doesn't mean it's not true. Stop using expressions such as man up. Stop being a pussy when a man expresses any sad emotions. Lead by example. For so long, men have been taught that they always have to be hard and tough to be real men. It's time to break that cycle and have fathers show their sons and daughter that it's okay to feel all damn emotions. That it's okay to cry. It's okay to be vulnerable and open up about your struggles. Accepting that men can also be victims of physical, emotional abuse and rape, and providing as much support for them as we do for women. Listen to each other. It's pointless telling men to open up about their feelings if no one is there to take them seriously. Body shaming is just as bad when it's directed at a man. Men receive so little compliments. Tell them they're looking fit. Edit, thank you so much for the gold. I'm finding the discussion and the replies so interesting and I'm so glad to be a part of it. You people raised some great points. I'll reply later, but just to clear up a few things. When I say let men cry and show feelings, I do not mean they need to start crying and mull over every little thing. All I'm saying is that there needs to be a healthy balance between expressing and regulating your emotions. Everyone has different coping mechanisms. Yes, at times it's necessary to just suck it up, to do what you gotta do. However, it's not healthy to just suppress every negative emotion, something that's still often encouraged in our society. Not only does this cause things to build up, eventually destroying your mental health, but also, it inhibits you from learning how to communicate your feelings, good and bad, to people. If something hurts, then it ducking hurts. If it upsets you to the point of tears, that's okay. Let it all out. There's no shaming here. Girlfriend broke up with you, and you need to just talk it out. Call up your friend. Tell them how this really sucks, and how they can support you. Don't feel like talking to anyone about it. That's okay too. Let your friends know that you're going through a hard time and you can fill them in later, if you want to, after you've had your time alone. In short, let's break down those outdated gender norms and start using those healthy coping mechanisms. Cheers. Probably do something about the male homeless problem. Last stat I saw was around 85% of the homeless population was male. In my town, there is exactly one homeless shelter that will admit men, even when it's below freezing outside. The rest have a very strict women and children only policy. They'll turn away entire families unless they are willing to split up and send the father back out into the cold. Statistically speaking, men work more, work longer hours, work in more dangerous professions, and consume more drugs, alcohol and other. In addition, men, on average, have fewer close friends and feel lonelier than women. I think the fatigue of such a life can be quite draining. I don't think the problem is that men do not talk about their feelings. I think the problem is that they often don't have someone to talk to. In addition, it can be quite hard to make new friends, especially when you are past your 20s. You know, people you are potentially interested in are married and have kids. They are preoccupied with their own lives. I felt very lonely and sad after my last long-term relationship ended. It took me over 6 months to find new friends, and I'm a hardcore extrovert. Still, I made a bunch of new friends within the past year or so. I'd like to encourage anyone who feels lonely to put yourself out there. Talk to people. If you like them, ask them if they like to hang out with you. Do you know how I became friends with one of my best friends? I straight up told him that I felt lonely and that I like him and would like to become friends with him. And for those of you who already have plenty of friends and a busy life, maybe make some room for people in your community who aren't as blessed as you are. Give us one compliment. Just one. A girl once said I had really pretty eyes. That shit was 7 years ago, and I remember it perfectly because it's all I've gotten in 7 years. I had a patient tell me my eyes were a lovely shade of shit stain green, and I still remember it 6 years later. Not only because it was a good burn compliment, but because men just don't get any form of compliments often. I generally make it a point to compliment my wife several times a week. We are going out. You look fantastic. She just got back from the gym. Booty on point. Babe, etc. She also can't walk 5 feet without some rando complimenting her. I get about 1 or 2 compliments a year at most from her. Generally I have to solicit them, too. I've even discussed it with her several times. Hasn't changed anything. Edit, don't like to edit, but 1, I love my wife, and my wife loves me. This was only highlighting the men compliment issue. 2, people using this as an anti-woman red pill nonsense jumping off point need to chill the duck out and self-reflect why all the advice I'm getting to passive aggressively or gaslight my wife into thinking I don't love her or don't find her attractive anymore as a way to elicit compliments from her is the source of your interpersonal relationship issues with the women in your life. People's reaction to men that commit suicide. Oh my god, that's so tragic. If only he had gotten help. How could anyone think they're that alone? People's reaction to men on the verge of suicide. Oh my god. He's so creepy. He's such a downer. Stay away from him. He's such a freak. EWW. Can you imagine even living like that? Pathetic. What a loser. So cringe. It's pretty much this. For reals. I attempted suicide and was called a little bitch and everyone was like, WTF dude. But I was thinking, what about all of the people who actually died? You treat them like victims. But you treat people who've attempted like attention seeking creeps. Even people who are only attention seeking have a problem that's being tossed to the wind. Suicide only matters if you're successful. Stop teaching them to suppress and bottle up their emotions. If you know how to actually feel the things you're experiencing, then when shit gets hard you can deal with it easier. Otherwise you're left with a sense of discomfort, a nauseating, sickening twisting in your gut, and a sense that something is wrong. You're not sure what. Just that things aren't right and you need it to stop right now. You drink. You punch the wall. You hurt yourself. You try to cry, but tears don't come, because all you know about crying is, man up. Grow up. Boys don't cry. You try to tell people you're not okay. A shrug when they ask how things are going. Telling people who care about you you're not feeling so great or are having a bad week. But the lackluster way. That is the only way you feel comfortable talking about how you feel doesn't draw the help it needs. And why would it? Or should it? You're a man. You shouldn't ask for help or even need it. You deal with these things alone because you're a rock, a pillar of support, the one who stays calm when things go wrong. So instead of unloading or dealing with the issues, they get carried, bottled up, pushed down, hidden. You desensitize yourself to them however you can and remain stoic. But eventually even stone crumbles, and when it does it's too late. There's too much. It's overwhelming. You don't even know where to start. The only thing you know is you want it to stop, need it to stop, and admitting you need help now would only make it hurt more. But you're sure you can't stand another ounce of pain, so you take the only option available. Not turn them away when they tell us what they're struggling with. Oh my dog, this blew up. Anyway, I'm so sorry to everyone who posted here sharing their cases of being turned down. I hope you all find someone who is gonna listen and help you. It's always the same. Oh man, that sucks. But you wouldn't believe how hard it is for me. Edit, this is not just about women saying to men, but also men to men. Thank you for all of your kindness. Destigmatize men talking about their feelings and thoughts. Not only that, but make men's resources a normal thing. When I was finishing high school and visiting colleges, I noticed that almost all had a women's resources center, but none that I saw had a men's resources center. I definitely think that colleges making their campuses a safe, healthy place for women is extremely important, but they should be doing it for men as well. I realize men don't have to deal with sexual assault and other issues nearly to the same extent as women, but there are many other factors that can contribute to a student's well-being. I think. Especially in the formative years, while young men and women are in college. They should be given resources to deal with whatever is causing them to feel anxious, depressed, alone, etc. I think a big part of it is a sense of purpose. Increasingly, the work we do doesn't produce such apparent results. For instance, a man used to go into the woods and hunt an animal. It was very difficult, but when he came home with meat, his family could eat and everyone was thankful that they aren't eating soup again. Everyone loves dad, but today, a man might go into the office, input some data, crunch some numbers, sign some paperwork, but what is he doing? Does his wife and kids appreciate it? Not as much, and it's not just work. Men used to mow their lawn, change their oil, repair things around the house, etc. But now all of that stuff is hired out to others. The result is that they don't feel useful or appreciated. And if they aren't useful, what is their purpose? It's kind of like generating versus consuming content. If you sit and watch YouTube all day, every day, you will start to feel like a pretty worthless piece of shit. But if you create YouTube videos, you would feel like you're doing something, like you have a purpose. That applies to life in general. People are increasingly consuming more and creating less. I have noticed that when I start to feel down and depressed, it's because of this. It's usually when I haven't had any little wins in my life and I have just been kind of floating through and going through the motions. If I let that go for too long, I could see how it could lead to deep dark depression. So what can we do? Women, show your men affection and appreciation. Even if they don't do much good, at least show appreciation for the little good they do to motivate them to do better and grow. And men, do something. Help out around the house. Fix something. Draw something. Do something nice for your partner or your kids. Learn another language. Learn a musical instrument. Build something. Just be productive and try to limit the time you are consuming TV, video games, browsing the internet, reading fiction, social media, etc. You'll feel much more accomplished and healthy when you have more to offer the world, those around you, and yourself. Although we are allowed encouraged to be open about how we feel or think, we can't. If something is a genuine problem and we verbalize it, the reaction is almost always others jumping down our throat as we have no right to complain, or mocking as we have supposedly been living privileged. It's become worse in recent years as we literally have to tiptoe around while being blamed for everything generations before us supposedly did. Most men alive today had no part in anything that was done to others. We were born into a different world where we have always been on the back foot, yet carry a lot of the blame and stigma from things we had nothing to do with. I'm expecting this post to get mass downvoted purely for openly saying what I personally live and experience. We don't talk about that shit because it gets hammered back at us. So we shut the duck up and just keep going until we break. Then everyone is like, oh, you should have said something. No, we shouldn't, as it just creates more stress and makes things more difficult. You want to help? Then create an environment for men equal to that of everyone else instead of dwelling on the doings of long dead people and putting men separate and last. The thing about equality is that everyone is equal regardless of gender, sexuality and age, etc. People want to know what can be done to help, but when they know it just gets buried again. It's easier to just not bring it up, so we don't face all the BS and drama about how hard everyone else has it, as if we live in golden castles. Too many people see the world through decades-old rose-tinted glasses. Things need to change.